Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's video newsletter, well, we're going to take a look at the title of my book, which is called Drink Tea and Read the Paper. People have been asking me, why is a Six Sigma book called Drink Tea and Read the Paper? Before we start, of course, you can get this at lulu.com. I'll leave a link in the comments below so that you can click straight on it. But drink tea and read the paper. Let's talk about why that's one of the most important pieces of advice to your operators, your technicians, your engineers. Let's have a look at this thing. So, why do I say drink tea and read the paper, when of course everyone is trying to do the very opposite? Everyone is trying to step in and so-called control their process. They are trying to steer the process down the road, whereas what I'm telling you to do is put your hands in your pockets and leave the bloody thing alone. So let's take a look at this thing. One of the most important things, what do you actually control? So think about this for a second. When you're on a machine, when you have a process and you decide to grab a dial, what is it that you're about to change? What are you actually in charge of? What are you capable of influencing? Well, processes, of course, have a distribution. They have a distribution and they have, of course, a tolerance that you're trying to get the results to fall inside. So when you decide that you're going to adjust your process, what is it that you're going to adjust? Well, there's only one thing that you're in charge of. You are in charge of the middle of your distribution. You're in charge of the middle, and that is the only thing you can influence by swinging on a dial or a setting on your process. So in this case, for instance, we would want to swing this over because we would want to make the middle of my result hopefully hit dead on the nominal and hit the target. But you are only in charge of the middle. So if I draw another picture, for example, and make another point, how about this? There are your tolerances. Of course, your guaranteed defects in the tails here. But what are you in control of? You're in control of the middle. Can you make these tails go away by adjusting the process? Well, no. The only thing you could do here is swing this distribution backwards and forwards and make the problem worse. Now, of course, if I showed you this picture, that would be an obvious conclusion if you could see the picture. But your operators, your technicians, your engineers, they rarely see this picture. They never take the time to take that snapshot. What they do, of course, is they take a data point at a time. So they have a target that they're trying to hit. They have an upper spec. They have a lower spec. Well, if you take individual data points out of this picture, what will you see most of the time? Well, most of the time, of course, they will see results that fall inside the tolerance. But every now and again, they're going to have to get one here. And then they see this. And what do they think? Well, they think, I've made a defect. They think this picture has slid sideways. That's not necessarily true. They just never took this picture in the first place. So what should this operator do? This operator should be just sitting on their hands. The defect rate is nothing to do with them. Their only behavior. The operator's responsibility is to hit the middle. And once they've hit the middle, they are to take their hands away, they are to drink tea and read the paper. And if you take a look, take a look at this little example. This is a project that somebody presented to me at Greenbelt. Look, here's his graph. What did he do? He set the process up, he took his hands off, and he let 40 data points come towards him. What was he trying to do? He was trying to take this picture, and you can see that without any adjustment, the process has gone over the top tolerance, it's gone below the bottom tolerance. So he's got this exact problem here, and you can see that when he looks at his histogram, and then when he looks at his CPK diagram is exactly this picture here. But how did he get the picture? He took his hands off and he let his process talk to him. So he got exactly that problem. Now the spread of this distribution, trying to push this distribution in, this has got nothing to do with the operator. The operator can't influence this. These are things like maintenance routines that sometimes get done, sometimes they don't get done. Maybe the machine is 40 years old and you've never changed any bearings, maybe you've never changed the feed screw, and so this is the natural backlash, etc., in the machine. So the spread of this thing is outside the operator's influence. They can only hit the middle. So what should you teach your operators to do? Well, you've got to teach them where the middle is, and you've got to teach them how to know that they've hit it, because that's not a straightforward matter when what you're doing is watching one data point at a time. You're not looking at this picture. Now, I'd love you to go and buy my book, Drink Tea and Read the Paper. More to the point though, I'd love you to follow the advice. Drink tea and read the paper. There's some other books here about hitting the target. I've got two books here by Don Wheeler, which are absolutely fantastic. Short Run SPC by Don Wheeler. In this book, it's a very short text, but in it, he teaches you how to set the process aim. There's sections in here about how to set the process aim. In other words, how to hit the middle. There's another text here by Wheeler called Avoiding Man-Made Chaos. What is man-made chaos? It's variability that you're adding because you're swinging on the dials. If you go back to the graph that I showed you earlier, look, if they adjust this process, what's the only thing they can do? They can make the process worse, because they'll make the peaks higher, they'll make the troughs lower, and they'll make the defect rate worse. Avoiding man-made chaos. That's why the advice is drink tea and read the paper, because if you swing on this and swing it backwards and forwards, you make the process worse. Teach your operators, your technicians and your engineers how to hit the middle, how to know they're on the middle, and then teach them to make tea, because if you do that, you will avoid man-made chaos and you will make more money. Drink tea and read the paper.